Out with the old and in with the new. Our 87-year-old Model A gets mated up to a fresh chassis, all to improve strength and safety. Plus, body mods will make way for a big power plant.
Boom!
That and more today on Truck Tech.
Hey guys, welcome to Truck Tech. Today we're back on one of my favorite projects, this 1930 Ford Model A pickup. What's really cool about this ride is it's pretty much all original and never been tampered with. So it's a perfect canvas for a modified build or a period correct restoration.
Got a perfect idea. Why don't we throw this thing back to like the late 80s, early 90s, billet aluminum, tweed interior, you know those tires that are about that wide poking out of the back? What do you say?
I don't know about that, but I will say value-wise, if we built this thing original and down the road we wanted to sell it, we wouldn't get quite as much for it if it were original. So, since they made so many of these things, I say we modify it to death, and if we do decide to sell it, we may make a little more money on it.
Well, just keep that Pro Street thing in mind.
I'll think about it.
You know, not too long ago, we actually showed you guys what it takes to start up and run this original flathead four-cylinder, and it actually ran pretty good. But, I mean, what are these rated at? 40 horsepower?
Yeah, it's in the 40s, not a lot.
Just not anywhere near enough for us. So, we're gonna start over.
That's right. And then today, hopefully we'll blow this thing all apart, set the cab and bed down on our new chassis and see what it looks like, but I think we're probably gonna end up cutting a few inches out of this cab.
You know, we definitely need to get it a lot closer to ground to kind of bring that rendering to life.
Absolutely. A short time ago, we took delivery on a brand new Pete and Jake's Hot Rod chassis kit. It included everything we needed to create a roller in an afternoon. Strength and safety are the major upgrades. We're probably only going to keep the cab and bed off our Classic, and the quicker we tear her apart, the sooner we'll see how it's all going to fit on our new parts. Okay, now we're gonna take loose the steering column. Now the steering shaft inside of the column tube and the gearbox are one unit. So back in 1930, when this truck ran down the assembly line, they installed the steering column onto the frame, lifted the cab up really high and set it down over the top of it. Well, to keep us from having to lift the cab up so high, we're gonna take loose the steering column, see if we can lay it down low or possibly sneak it out of here so we don't have to lift this cab up so high.
Well, see if this thing will fall apart or not.
I hope not.
Pretty well balanced.
I think you're okay, go for it.
Hey, did you get those airbag wires?
Yeah, and I set the computer and the wiring harness over there against the wall. A couple of plugs were messed up, you may want to check that.
We clear that shifter yet?
You are clear now.
All right.
They don't scratch that running board.
This, in 3, 2, 1.
Is how high it should sit.
That's the new ride height. Yeah.
When you can lay your elbow on the roof, get that cool stance going, that's when you know the ride height is right.
That's when you know it's low enough.
Now we got to really actually get it that low.
Well, what do we do with the rest of this?
Well, we'll do like they did on the Beverly Hillbillies. We'll get a couple of rocking chairs. We'll put them right there.
Nice.
Somebody'd ride in it.
Yeah. Can I have the rocking chair way up on top?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Get you the fiddle. We'll get the little jug to blow in, make music. All right, I want to save this.
One, two, three. Sit down on the ground for a second. Yep.
A lot heavier than it looks.
They must have used red oak underneath that. Put a wheel tire up next to that, see how it's gonna look.
Next, from weak to strong.
Hey, we're back on Truck Tech, and we've got our new Pete and Jake's rolling chassis in the shop, and we've got everything disassembled off of our old Model A we know we want to keep. And I cannot wait to see this old cab on that new foundation. You can see on our original Model A frame, the metal is thin and it's a C-channel design, not boxed. This makes it very weak and wouldn't hold up to much power. You put more than 100 horses to this thing and she'd twist on us. 87 years ago, when you bought a Ford, mechanical brakes were all you got. You can see the linkages move when LT pushes the brake pedal, and that's what moves the brake shoes. Not so safe on highways today. Also, the rear axle is not up to par. It's weak and there's not much of an aftermarket support for a rebuild, so we won't be reusing it. And it also has an enclosed drive shaft. Now compare the old frame to our new Pete and Jake's chassis. It has a much stronger box frame that will handle the power we plan to throw at it. Brakes are night and day. Hydraulic disc in the front and drums in the rear. Our new Model A will stop in a hurry, but most importantly, we've improved the safety. We've also upgraded to a Ford 9-inch axle with 3/0 gears and a ladder bar suspension. And bring that crane over here, let's get this cab on.
Tell you what, man, I know we're spoiled, but this thing makes life so much easier.
I don't know what I'd do without it.
Hook her up.
We'd have 4 or 5 guys over here right now.
All right, you want me to lift this up using the rabbit or the turtle?
I'd go rabbit with the cab.
I don't know, man.
You know, we'd have to buy a lot of beer to get enough guys over here to lift this cab on.
So in the long run, we really saved money.
We really did, but we don't have any beer, so.
Pull her back. Now this is a moment of truth because we legitimately have not test fit this.
No, we have not.
A couple inches.
Yep, at least there's no new paint to scratch.
Suspended, let's put a bolt in it just to kind of line things up. Got a problem, Jeremy.
What's your problem?
This doesn't look anything like that rendering.
No, it doesn't.
I don't like it.
But you know what?
What?
It will.
Well, how do we fix it?
Well, easy, kind of. We're gonna take 3 inches out of the top, so we'll make a cut somewhere along in here. We'll drop the roof line down, make it look a little better. But then next, we're gonna channel this thing. We're gonna raise the floor up in the cab to drop the body down over the frame and hide that frame under there and get this thing really low. And I kind of feel sorry for you, man, being so tall, because I don't know if you're gonna fit in here.
Oh no, you're gonna stretch the cab for me.
Stretch the cab, or we'll just leave this off. We'll
Yes.
just let your head stick up through there.
I need to find some better hairspray though.
We'll get you some goggles.
Yes.
Yeah, but we'll get it down. I think it'll look a lot better, be a lot cleaner. And if we can hide that frame by dropping that cab down, that'll look really good too. So,
yeah, it's all about bringing the proportions in, because like right now it's really accentuated like how tall the roof really is.
Exactly.
And it kind of sticks out. So bring the roof down, bring the whole body down over the frame, make it look 100 times better.
and what's easy about these Model A's when you chop the top is you don't have to cut the roof in 4 sections to bring it all back together. We can kind of cut a section out here, it'll drop straight down, and it'll be a fairly easy chop. So I'm excited to get it down, but before we do that, I think we need to make us some clearance for this engine up here though.
Next, the mods begin.
One common modification when doing an engine swap in a Model A is building or modifying the firewall to gain more clearance, because almost any engine we go with is going to be larger and longer than the original 4-cylinder that came in this Ford.
Hey man, I got something for you.
Man, what are you doing with that thing in here?
I heard you like little stuff, so I picked you up a small block Chevy.
Because the guy's like 7 foot tall, he's picking on the short guy.
Oh, the small block is probably the most common engine that guys would install in an old hot rod like this. They're cheap, they're powerful, and they're easy to find. We're not going to run one, but this will just illustrate the problem that Jeremy's talking about. Check it out. If you include the distributor all the way to the water pump, there's about 30 inches of room that we have to stuff underneath the hood. Now on a Model A, the radiator sits right here on this cross member. So a rough measurement from the firewall to the radiator is about 26 inches. So at the bare minimum, we need 4 more inches of room to get a V8 under the hood of this hot rod.
That's right, and we could cut up and modify this firewall, or one cool trick a lot of old hot rodders use, they'll actually cut the bottom out of a wheelbarrow and section it in, and it looks really cool. But we're going to show you an easier way to do this. The first thing is to remove a couple of the interior pieces. We're doing this so we can brace the cab so it doesn't flex on us when we start cutting the body apart. Even though it probably wouldn't move just doing this firewall mod, we're not going to take any chances. Now with the upholstery removed, I can clean up the area for the brace and get down to bare metal so we can make a clean weld. Then pull a couple of measurements.
All right, what do you got?
Good down there, 42.5.
Hey, you know what that means? Our body's already square.
See if we can keep it that way.
Yeah.
At the chop saw, I'll get the 2 pieces of tubing cut to length, and one at a time, fit them in the cab and weld them in. All right, this is a very important step if you plan on cutting a body apart like we're doing with the firewall, or chopping a top or channeling the body like we're going to do down the road. Now, if we would have cut this thing apart and not braced it up, there's a good chance the cab would have twisted on us and we'd be in bad shape. It'd take a lot of work to get it back where it needs to be, and heck, we'd be lucky if our doors even open and shut. So, if you plan on doing any body modifications like this, take a few minutes, brace it up.
One interesting thing about the Ford Model A is the fuel tank is actually the same piece as the cowl skin and the dashboard. Now this made for quick assembly back at the plant, but it's really not safe to be driving around with a whole bunch of fuel sitting basically in your lap inside the passenger compartment. Now we are going to have a custom tank made up that sits either in or underneath the bed, and we will be making some changes to the dashboard as well. So all we really need to save is this upper skin. It's original to the truck, it fits great, and it's actually in really good shape. So let's get this thing cut apart. The tank's been drained of any fuel, but to prevent any fireworks, we're going to purge it with argon before we begin cutting. After a few minutes, we're good to go. I'll use a 4-inch angle grinder and a thin cutoff disc to separate the two halves. I'm keeping the cut as close to the pinch weld as I can. After it's separated, I'll come back and I'll clean up the edges. It's rusty.
All right, now it's time to address this firewall we were telling you about a little bit ago. We showed you with a Chevy small block V8, we need to gain somewhere around 3 to 4 inches of clearance. And since we don't want to change the point where our radiator mounts, we need to gain it back here at the firewall. We need to remove the old parts off the firewall, so we'll get these out of the way. Next, I'll remove any bolts holding the firewall to the body, and then start the search for all the dreaded spot welds. You can do this using an angle grinder. Start by grinding away the paint, and normally any paint that is left behind means there's a low spot, and that's where the spot weld is. I'll start by punching the center of the spot weld. Then, using an 1/8 inch drill bit, I'll make a pilot. And finish up drilling out the spot welds using our Matco spot weld cutter kit. Next is to grind away the rivets at the bottom and top of the firewall. There are some on the outside and a few on the inside. Boom! Just like that. It only took us a few minutes to get the firewall separated from the cab. Now, I'm sure you guys think I'm probably going to go grab a new piece of sheet metal, drag in all of our fancy metal tools, and fab up a new firewall, but nope. This is probably the easiest firewall modification you will ever do. All we're going to do is flip it around. And just like that, we've gained a few inches of clearance. And this thing is pretty much the same shape all the way around where it fits to the cab, even flipped around like this. Now, we may have to make a few small pie cuts and persuade it just a little bit, but it should go together pretty easy. And this is perfect for you guys that plan to run that small block. Let's see if we can get this thing fit to the cab. The first thing we need to do is pull a measurement to see how deep the firewall is at the bottom. And it looks to be about 2 1/4 inches. So I'll measure 2 1/4 on the lower brace connected to the cab. Once I have both braces marked, I'll make a cut through both using a 4-inch cutoff wheel on a grinder. And then we can test fit the firewall to the cab.
Well, man, I got the cowling all trimmed up. See how it fits.
Ooh.
You can weld this thing together yet?
Not yet. Since we don't know exactly what we want to run, we may need a little more clearance. We're going to wait because we may trim this hump out, flip it around, and gain just a little more if we need it.
Well, speaking of engines, there are a couple different options, and tell me what you think about this.
What do you got?
Either a 4-cylinder, since this was originally 4-cylinder, but something with forced induction, maybe a Ford, or
cool.
let's go with like a classic 50 style, maybe an Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Buick, big V8.
3 carbs on top.
Exactly, yeah, all the chrome and all that other stuff. So something to think about.
That'd be cool. Flip a coin for it.
Next time.
Broke. Crafting your own upholstery is not as hard as you might think. Now, I've shown you guys the basics on how to thread and run the sewing machine and how to make a stitch. Today in part 3, we'll continue the step-by-step process to get you up on upholstery. Now, most of the time when you sew material together like these 2 pieces of vinyl, you'll back them with foam for a nice cushy feel. And today, there are 2 types of foam you need to know about right now: closed cell foam and scrim foam. Now, closed cell foam comes in various thicknesses. It's great for door panels, side panels, package trays, and headliners. Now, you can cut designs into this material, and it's also sandable, so you can bevel the edges for a really clean look. The downside is it will not hold a stitch, so it's no good for today's demonstration, but good to know when planning out your interior. But scrim foam will hold a stitch, and this too comes in different thicknesses. And when using this for automotive seats, I like to use 1/2 inch. Now, this foam will hold a stitch because it has this backing. It gives the stitch something to grab onto, and it won't pull through. Last time I showed you that you could glue these 2 pieces together, but there's also another way. I'll do what's called a border stitch. I'll lay the 2 pieces together and run a stitch right along the edge of the vinyl. This locks the 2 pieces together. Then trim the foam. With 2 of these done, now we're ready to lay down what's called a plain seam. I'll start by laying the 2 pieces face to face. Set the needle, make a lock stitch, then run my stitch. And finish up with a lock stitch at the end. And this is a plain seam. It's the most common seam you'll see in automotive seats. It's simple and it's clean. But not only that, it hides the border stitch we made earlier, so you don't have to worry about that being seen. But now we can get a little fancy. We're gonna lay down what's called a top stitch. It'll go right alongside this seam. All we have to do is make sure we keep our seam allowance held flat so the stitch goes through it, and it'll make for a strong stitch. Now line the center of the left foot in the center of the seam. Then make your stitch. This is more for looks than anything. A step further is a French stitch. We want to do the same thing as the top stitch, just on the other side. You'll see this in higher end vehicles. That looks awesome. That's an easy way to make any piece you're working on look very expensive. Next time, we'll take it a little further.
Choosing the right gasket material for your application can be a bit of a chore, but Permatex makes it easier with their Optimum Black gasket maker that's designed for maximum oil resistance. It's 15% stronger than the Permatex Ultra Black and 60% more flexible, which means it'll give you a better seal. It's perfect for things like valve covers, oil pans, timing covers, differential covers, basically anywhere that sees a lot of oil. Now, it comes with 2 nozzles in case the first one dries out on you, and it's available at your favorite automotive retailer.
Brake lines for our Model A will be a custom fit, and once we pull some measurements, we're going to call Crown Performance, because not only do they offer up fully braided hoses for a variety of cars, trucks, and SUVs, but they'll also make a set for your custom ride like our Ford. The outside has a protective coating, and they come in a variety of colors. And the fittings are pre-installed, crimped, and then the lines are pressure tested so you don't have any leaks. For more information, go to crownperformance.com. Thanks for watching Truck Tech. We'll see you next time.